All right, so now we're on to 8.4, which is planning a vacation, or, well, the cost of traveling by automobile. So here there's many things to think about when you're planning a trip. It's important to have an idea of how much the trip will cost. For example, in this situation, we're going to say you and your older brother, even if you don't have an older brother, now you do, you drive to Daytona Beach, Florida. You have 12 days to spend away on vacation. So estimate all the costs associated with driving to Daytona Beach and then back, and include details. So I'm not going to include all the details, but some basic things that would, cost you some money are going to be the gas to get there and back, the hotel where you're going to stay, some food, and then the entertainment or activities. So entertainment or activities. So the number 2 here is estimate your share of these costs. So this is going to be individually done. So you're going to see roughly how much you think it would cost you. And then the fact of showing it in Canadian money, don't forget that you're going to do your US money times the exchange rate equals the Canadian dollar. Okay. 3A is determine the distance from where you live to Daytona Beach. So I had searched this up earlier, and if you use Ottawa as a base, it's roughly 1,000 kilometers. I had done that using the measuring tool. And then what is the one-way driving time? That's with Google, and depending, obviously, on the route you're taking, it's 21 to 22 hours. All right, number 4, assume that you leave home on a Saturday at 6 o'clock in the morning. What time and day would be the earliest you would expect to arrive in Daytona Beach? So let's say you're not stopping at all. For any reasons, you'd arrive Sunday at 4 a.m. Now, if you took breaks, if you stopped and you took a nap somewhere in a hotel, or even just, to eat your meals, then you would be obviously arriving later. Plan a realistic driving schedule, including stops for eating, sleeping, and so on. So this part here is individual. And then number 5, estimate the total number of kilometers driven during your entire vacation. So I would say for just there and back. Now, if you planned a different kind of vacation and you're planning in the previous questions, you'd have a different total of kilometers. But it is roughly 2,181 kilometers times 2, plus or minus. You might drive 1,000 kilometers while you're there. So this gives you a total of roughly 5,500 kilometers. Now, it could be a different amount depending on what you'd plan to do and what you're doing while you're there. All right, so using this number, we're going to calculate how much fuel you're going to use. So the fuel consumption on this car that you're on is 7.2 liters per 100 kilometers. And then you are driving 5,500 kilometers. Oops. So you have 396 liters total used. So now, approximately how much money will be spent on fuel? Use the current fuel rate in your area. So the current rate, or at least when I had grabbed these numbers, was $1.64 a liter. So you have $1.64 per liter times 396 liters will give you $538 for just the gas. And then presumably you'd split that 50-50 for number 6, which would leave you with $269.20 to pay. So here, use the internet to find nightly rates for accommodations. So it's kind of roughly $100 a night. Obviously, you can find a more expensive place, but the cheaper end of things is $100 a night. And then what percent is the room tax in Florida? So if you look it up, it's 6% tax on things in Florida. And then the nightly price for one room with tax would be $100 times 1.06 to give you $106. And then determine the total cost of accommodations for the trip. Assume everything along the way is the same price. So you have 12 days, gives you 11 nights to sleep that are not in your own bed. So that times the $106 per night is $1,166. And then your share of the cost would once again be half of it. And then this was all in US dollars, so you have to convert this price now into Canadian money. And the exchange rate at the time that I had done this was 1.36. So that gives you $7.92 Canadian. This last part here is kind of more individual. So what activities would you like to do? Find some stuff and estimate their costs. And then number 11, would you be splitting the cost of food? Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe you just pay for each your own. And then here is to estimate the cost of food per day for all your traveling days as well. And then finally to estimate the total cost of your food at the end of it. So this last page is very much individual. I can't really do it for you, but it's not too complicated. It's just estimating prices. And that's the end of 8.4.